There we go.
Okay, so we started recording. This is November 26, 2025. This is the package metadata working group in CHAOSS. We were talking for a while and we started recording late, so I will try to quickly recap what we said. We have moved the meeting to UTC time zone. That's easy, and we were discussing about license attributes in different package managers, the analysis we did in the last few weeks. I was mentioning that for PHP, they have some enforcement on using SPDX, and that the general pattern of those that actually have some good coverage of license expressions are those package managers where they have this situation where they have an attribute that defines an SPDX expression or an string that is suggested to be an SPDX expression. And then they have an escape hatch, which is a file or a list of files for licenses that are not SPDX ID, valid SPDX IDs, like proprietary license that you just defined for this product. Then I was mentioning things about different package managers, how they solve this problem, and we started discussing what would be the recommendation. I think because of the analysis we did, the recommendation will be to have these two attributes, if enforced better. And the other thing is that we are running an experiment with some data provided by Andrew that collects the values in those attributes in current package manager for the top 1% of the packages. And I'm running a parser to validate if those were the SPDX expression is suggested and not enforced, what coverage they actually have an SPDX expression, which ones are just some string that doesn't parse. I have some early results on that, but I need to run the whole experiment before publishing. I will update the PR on that in the next few days.
You were going to add the data and the script in there as well?
I'm adding the script, the data. I actually have the PR if you want to look. I didn't submit it yet because I was waiting on the new data. But maybe, yeah, because let me show you. I can share my screen somewhere. And let's see. Is this one? Yes, this one. So you see an ID now?
I see your screen. Yep.
Okay, so I started collecting this is how the data looks like. Package, package manager, then package name, and some text. And I put it into a directory that is called now data and the date we extracted the data. We have the 0.1% and the 1%. I added a README with the attribution and this stuff. I will pass the PR so you review that I'm doing the proper attribution for this. And then I added the results. They were something like this. These are not the real results because some issues with the data. But for example, we get like Maven has a 37% of coverage of the top 1% packages. So that means, yeah. Something that was surprising, and this is how I knew that the data was wrong, is that Go says 100%. And I found that the situation was that in place of having the 1% of each package manager, what we have is the 1% of the packages across all ecosystems. And that, because Go is not that popular, it has only 3 packages defined there in the 1%.
Oh,
And
you know,
those,
the other thing I might have done is I might have actually just said only anything with a license, with a value for a license in the top 1% of Go, which is, of course, you know, basically nothing because Go doesn't have a metadata file that has any license data in it.
So undeclared is an option we probably would need to add, right?
Yeah,
so
when I regenerate that data, I need to make sure I don't just filter out everything that, you know, might not, it is interesting, but isn't, is going to fail.
yeah, for the data, don't filter anything. I'm counting those that have nothing as bad data. So in this case, it was only a few packages, and all of them are from the standard library. And the standard library of Go has the license. It's BSD3. But if you go down to others, like you see, like BC package also has a C 100%, but it only has one package. uh, so yeah, npm is pretty good because they emit this warning I was mentioning. So
And
people
they
kind of
also default whenever you make a new package using npm in it, they default to ISC license. Like they don't ask
yeah
you. It just goes like, oh, it's just assume that you want this license.
yeah
Whereas if
if
you
you
make a new gem with Ruby gems, it'll be like, what license do you want, if any?
yeah so here there is a few in the extended percentage that PHP doesn't have it, but in general it's pretty good. It's also in the top. npm is also in the top. Elm has the same situation. They have only 5 packages, so
Mm.
uh, so I need to, when you have the new version of the data, I will rerun the script and that will finish the PR. But I added also the many other packages here. So package manager. So I have like license analysis now is really huge. I added Rust, Python, containers, Go, JavaScript, PHP. Um, I don't
Oh
know.
wow, there's loads here now.
This is nice. One question though. Are you trying to make an overview that is just like the facts, or are you adding some opinion to it?
So the analysis in general is the facts. It might be a slight opinion on some details on the last part when I said things about when I classify them, because I classify
Yeah,
them in those that have a standard specification that is unambiguous, those that are ambiguous because they have this definition of you have 10 different ways of defining license, and then there is those that doesn't have a specification.
that's
Then
great.
the other thing is I'm creating this license recommendation file that is empty now. And this is what I was mentioning. I think about this file to go with the recommendation of what PHP and Rust are doing, like having this license SPDX with an escape hatch. And I will write it for the next meeting for sure. But I wanted to know if someone had an opinion on maybe there is a better way.
No, I like really how you're thinking here, and I was actually going to ask if you want to write some recommendations. So I'm super happy you already started thinking about that. Because the reason I'm asking is I've been trying to convince people on the CPAN toolchain community to start updating their metadata specification. And we have a couple of us who have started looking at what needs to be updated, partly because of new requirements from the European Union and stuff like that. But the license issues are, I think, taking and improving those so it actually becomes unified and aligned with some recommendations from what you're doing here, I think would be fantastic. And we'd love to do that. One question though, have you seen any of the package managers out there or the metadata files that manage to handle licenses that are specific to individual files in a good way. Say, for example, you have a documentation directory where you have a one license and you have a code library directory where you have another license. Is that handled well somewhere, or is
I've not
this?
seen it handled
No.
in any metadata file. It's basically just assumed that the heading or there'll be something at the top of that file that says that
Right.
scan code will pick that up, and there are other licensed scanners as well, but none of the package managers I've seen will have any like per file specification around licenses. It's just a
Is that
blanket thing.
desirable? Is that desirable?
I mean, there.
Like I'm thinking mostly because downstream there will be lots of S-bombs being generated, and they are into the business of trying to make the data correct. And right now they're talking about how to determine if what license you have, and they use all kinds of fancy methods by searching for keywords and using large language models or other AI systems or just gripping, but having a way to explicitly communicate a license, like an authoritative source, sounds to me like an ideal. Instead of inferring or assuming or looking for confirmation, you have like a metadata field that says what the facts are, and wouldn't that be nice?
So
What
there's this
what I,
thing called reuse, which is kind of like, I think it tries to be that, but it doesn't integrate with the package manager's metadata directly. But it's like, we run this and it will add the machine readable things to each files, but then it's not being extracted back up to be like, here is the kind of summary of that thing.
Well, well,
But
that's
I
like
can't see package managers wanting to push that. Like, it will just become out of date in the metadata file almost instantly.
I'm upstream of CPAN is upstream of package managers, and what I'm looking for isn't just like how package managers can take care of upstream metadata like this, but also create some expectations or find a way to communicate that there's a need for this kind of information. If there isn't, that's fine. Having a third party trying to do a summarize or create separate metadata is useful, but it's the authoritativeness of having the maintainer actually declare what the license is in a standardized way. That's what I'm looking for. Is this valuable enough to bother with? If not,
I
then
sorry.
go
I
ahead.
think that the situation is like when you have one file and you put it into the header, then you build a package on top of it and you make like 2, 3 different files. Let's say they have different license. When you redistribute the whole package, and the license for the package is the and expression of those three. So the package, because the package cannot be distributed partially, at the level of the package metadata doesn't make sense to have something less than a whole expression.
Yeah.
I think like if
Yeah.
you go and you copy paste one file from there, you need to relate to the header, and the header should have an SPDX identifier on
Yeah.
the top. But for the package manager metadata point of view, you are already combining all those in distribution.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Thank you for clarifying this for me. I'll take that with me in my work forward. Thanks.
Like, if maintainers were running that reuse script and then like committing it into their repos as a nice machine readable identifiers, and they were the ones that were like producing that authoritative source, then that would be much nicer than the current like inference of like, oh, I found keywords here, or I found the copyright Unicode
Exactly.
symbol. and all of the different tricks that they try to do. I should also mention that Demian's work may find bugs in ecosystems is like license detection stuff, and that the data should not be considered to be 100% correct in all cases.
Okay, let me see. I have this thing about discussing. I know what I need to do with the recommendation now, and I will wait for the files for running the experiment and submitting the PR for the analysis. Then I don't know if we had more PRs open.
Yes, there's one number.
Oh yeah, the
11,
attribution. Yeah,
attestation.
attestation. Yeah, sorry.
Yes. And Zach left some helpful comments that I have not had time. I actually totally forgot that he had left them until I looked just before the meeting and was like, oh, I need to respond to these things. But I basically started my research there from his spreadsheet that he put together. That is like, here's all of the different kind of trusted publishing and other, just loads of different kind of names around these attestation things, depending on how far each package manager's registry has kind of gone down it. It was triggered by someone asking if ecosystems had attestation data, and I was like, no, but we could definitely start adding that in. So it's kind of, a helpful starting point for me to delve into it, but it doesn't have any recommendations yet, and it doesn't really have any data yet other than kind of like here is the state of the world for the package managers that do have that kind of thing like implemented, which is 5 or 6 of them so far. Or maybe it was 7. There's Dart Pub, as it's called, has one as well. So I need to follow up on Zach's comments. But ideally, all package managers, the recommendation would be all package managers should do this to try and fill in the gap and give you a sense of provenance between what's on the package manager and the source repository that it was published from.
Does anyone do it today?
Yeah, quite a few. There's a website that I can't remember the name of that is like lists all the Python packages, the top 500 Python packages, and how many of those have actually like set up the trusted publishing workflows, because you're essentially plugging into GitHub or GitLab Actions to automate the publishing, and then it does the signatures of along the process and publishes it all to SigStore and everything, so that you don't have to fully understand like all of the different bits of machinery that go on there. And it's being encouraged for lots of the most kind of like top 1% packages that it's like, this is a very good idea to fit in there. And I don't know, Salve probably knows more about how much SBOMs have these things like as extra metadata fields, but it's not quite the same as just saying like, oh, we got the hash of the tarball. It's being able to say like, oh, we have the record of who published this and how, and like what their signatures and proof of identity is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit fussy around this specific part, because mostly because I have to work with 2 different types of attestations at the moment. But you're talking now about provenance, but where does a package come from and the chain of custody, basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, of course, in the CRA, in the Cyber Resilience Act, you also have something called voluntary security attestations or something like that, where they are looking for claims about the software that attest to some qualities, like for example, a security review has been performed, or the contact information is actually correct, or stuff like that.
Yeah, no,
That
so
is
that's
that is a type of metadata that will have to be possible to keep track of also in the coming year.
I actually had a conversation about that yesterday with a guy who's building a thing called S-Bombify, and he was like, "Oh, has ecosystems got this? Does ecosystems want this?" So it might be some kind of like thing there eventually, but I'm not in a big rush to try and
Yeah.
become a store of personal information of maintainers because I am
I don't.
near
I don't.
Europe.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't sure if that will be useful actually, because one of the ideas people, including myself, are trying to explore here is to use these types of voluntary attestation as a source of income for open source projects, so we can fund security work or open source projects, so in different ways. So if people can get an attestation for free from ecosystems, then it wouldn't be they wouldn't need to send money to the open source projects. That might be an issue.
Yes, I mean, all the ecosystems attestation might be very low quality attestation of like, oh, or it'll be the like the long tail of dead packages rather than being like trying to be like, oh yeah,
No,
we're the authoritative source of
no,
things.
yeah. No, the idea for us, for me, certainly, is that the long tail of packages out there, even if dead or in zombie mode or barely alive, um, they need to be in on the game also, because like from a security perspective, the big successful projects out there, we don't have to worry that much about them. It's the smaller ones that are in use and are exposed to network or risky environments or sensitive data or stuff like that. Those need to be handled with care and need some tender loving care actually. So yeah, but that's a side topic for this meeting, so we don't have to go any further into this.
Yeah, that's potentially another thing to think about in the future, but right now none of that would be in the package manager itself, but maybe eventually the package manager will be able to give hints to where to go find that stuff. Because right
Yes.
now it's a bit of a wasteland in terms of like who the people are. Some package managers have absolutely nothing at all, and some have some information, but a lot will just be like, oh, you just go to the source repository and work it out yourself.
Yeah, that if we can, when we come to the point where we look for like, do packages include an SBOM or a field that points to an SBOM in a repository or something like that, then we could start to connect all this metadata, but that's also later.
And then I dumped a load of things in the notes here. Last, not this, not the last Friday, but the Friday before, I had a meeting which kind of enraged me because someone was basically just saying, "Oh, just use our stuff. You don't need to, like, you don't need to worry about the implementation of these different package managers." I know, no, that's exactly what I'm interested in, is like being a higher level than just reliant entirely on one tool. So I then basically rage documented a load of things in package managers over the weekend, including I made a crosswalk of commands. So for each different command line interface for each different package manager, there's a load of, like install and update and uninstall and all kinds of different things. So there's a big crosswalk there of about 60 different package manager command line interfaces. Then there's a load of example manifest and lock files. So that's the kind of like package JSONs and gem files and many different ones that I've extracted from my own examples and test suites and things. basically like as a place to go like, oh, cool. If I want to test my parser, dependency parsing things, like here are a load of real world things, as well as being able to know like here are a load of examples that I may or may not have even realized were like files that contain dependencies. I then went looking for open API specifications for package manager registry APIs. I found 2 real ones, and then I reverse engineered my usage of package manager API endpoints back into some like kind of crappy open API schemas for other ones, and hopefully can push those back upstream and get each package manager to basically like have their own self-maintained, properly documented open API like spec of how their registry works. Now that only really works for package managers that have a HTTP API, which all of the system ones are like, it's not really an API like that. Like, yes, you can download a file, but you download one file and then everything is inside that. Like, it's not, you're not describing what a JSON response from a server is. So I skipped all of those, but I may in the future then make a tiny like web server that basically like has an API spec and downloads and passes one of those files and turns it back into JSON so that people can consume it in like a similar kind of way. But I have not done that yet. And then I also made an OPML file of, which is essentially like a list of RSS feeds that you can auto subscribe to all of them if you want to be able to try and keep up with all the changes happening in all the package manager clients and registries. So if you want a massive list of like exhaustive RSS data, then there's one there. And then the 2 other pieces, one of those I'd actually done before my weekend rage documenting, which was a list of package manager papers. It's basically an updated list of something I did during COVID when I worked with Protocol Labs, and it's like a massive list of, it's not exhaustive, but it's everything I could find that was like related to package managers published as research papers. And then I also made a timeline of when package manager, like major package manager releases came out. And that one's really cool because it's basically like going back into the 90s and looking at like the really early package managers, and then also added in some interesting security and like significant events that have happened around certain package managers. But there's a lot of different things to add in there, but kind of like made a starting point of like, what does it look like which years were different package managers created? Because it's not like there was just one year where everything just popped into existence. So you can see an actual like lineage of things inspiring other things, and also going back to like CTAN was like one of the first kind of like things that looks, if you squint it looks like a package manager. There's a few even earlier ones that someone sent to me on Mastodon that I was like, wow, you really have to squint to make that look like a package manager. But yes, I can see where they're coming from. So I asked him to send a pull request, so maybe they will get added in as well. Like CERN had some kind of very old like list of, essentially it was like files that were shared and described by name. And I was like, yes, that's almost there. It just didn't do any kind of concept of versions. But yes, so all those things are there. They may be helpful for us in the future. Although more of just, I wanted to get that resource out into the world to be like, this data should be easy to get if you want to go looking and you want to build your own, like ways of collecting and analyzing data in package managers, rather than just say like, oh, just use ecosystems and don't worry about how ecosystems came to be. Instead, I'm like, here's what you want if you want to try and understand the raw kind of like underlying stuff. And then like the open API specs could potentially also be turned into another pull request on this repo to be like, here is the analysis that there are 2 like specifications of the registries APIs, and here's the recommendation, which is that all the others should have it. Maybe we could keep track of pull requests or issues to request those things being kind of tried to push upstream.
Good. A lot of reading to do. Anything you need help with on this, or you're going solo for 2 more weeks and we talk about later?
I don't think there's anything I need help with there. Unless if you happen to bump into something that might be relevant, then ping it over to me. The other thing I was talking about with Salve in Slack was a package manager glossary. I just made a glossary for ecosystems, is like concepts of different kinds of data objects, because people kept asking. So I was like, I should just document this somewhere. But the ecosystems one is slightly different to what I would say would be a general, like when we use different terms in this repo, it might be good to be able to point those over. And Salve has one that is a bit more security focused. I think it doesn't go into the concepts of like installing packages, right? And the like when I'm thinking about that like crosswalk of the different commands, there are lots of concepts in there that might also want to be in a glossary of like, what does it mean to update a package or to install a package, as a basic description of those things.
Happy to have a chat with you and to see if we can get some movement there, because I have
Yes.
words in my brain that I would like to share.
Yes, I think after next week, I'm going to New York I'm giving a guest lecture at NYU about trying to like how you should approach choosing open source software or like reviewing it, deciding if it's any good. Once I get back from that trip, then I'll have a bit more headspace to think about that.
Hey, I'm writing something that might be useful for that. If you care to, if you are interested in throwing around some ideas.
Yeah, I'm basically got given the prospectuses, or what do you call it? You know, the last year's set of slides, and I'm updating those to an existing course that Justin CHAOSS has written.
Okay. No worries.
Dog's woken up. But yeah, send it over. That would be interesting to look at.
No, it's I can share a link with you. It's still a work in progress, but and it's an ongoing brain dump of hopefully useful considerations when it comes to selecting open source.
Well, that sounds very interesting. The only other thing that comes to mind is that Emma recently, oh God, I can't remember what the domain name of it is. The open source wish list.
Oh, I saw that.
I can't remember the domain. Maybe Google
I
will
think
help.
I think it was OSS wishlist,
That'll be it. That's why Firefox is failing me.
but I
Yes,
don't remember the domain, the TLD.
OSS dash wishlist. It's quite early in terms of, you know, like levels of adoption, but there's some interesting things there around thinking about stuff that Salve is working on around like how you can connect the dots to like other kinds of requests of package manager like or open source maintainers to say like, oh, like rather than just a straight up funding link, there's other things that you might want to pave cow paths along. Hello, Basil. Do you need a pee?
Okay, if we don't have anything else, I think we are good. We can discuss in 2 weeks.
Yes, I guess after the 2-week one, then we'll be off for Christmas because it's like the Christmas Eve, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that one we suspend. Like, but yeah, let's do. I think we have next one, and then we see again in January.
The other thing I was thinking, just before we go, if any of this would make for any interesting FOSDEM content, because all of the call for proposals close on Monday. I don't know if Damien, you are planning on attending FOSDEM?
No, I'm not going. I'm not going, but I think it would be great if we close at least one or two of these, so we can show them. Not me, because I'm not going. But if you want to
There's
go
also
over
the
them,
CHAOSS event before it as well that this could be interesting. I'm not sure if I can make that yet, but if so, then I might submit a little talk.
yeah, I
about
think
it.
it will be better for the dev room for this. At least these documents we are writing now with the proposals. For chaos, maybe it makes sense to mention more what we are doing on the high level than actually the details. The details, it will be probably better for the dev room. If you are going to present, I can work something with you, but I will not be able to show for the presentation itself.
I think it's bad form for the dev room organizer to also speak at the dev room. So I won't be speaking at the package manager dev room, but I am looking at maybe submitting talks to things on the Sunday. I'm going to have to go because the dog needs a pee.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
that, you gotta do what you gotta do there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about offline.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.